hill, a bend in a flooded creek. The Georgia backcountry, February 1779. 600 men are camped on the high ground. Loyalists, Americans loyal to the king. They've marched hundreds of miles to get here, and they're almost home free. They rest. They eat. Cattle penned on the hill are being butchered for beef. Horses graze, unsaddled. A few miles east sits a friendly camp. A day's march away, the British Army waits at Augusta to welcome them. Colonel James Boyd has done it. He's raised an army for the king out of the backcountry, and he's about to deliver it. He posts a few guards. He lets his men breathe. He has no idea that 340 rebels are in the trees below him. A shot, then another. Then the woods come alive. Britain, quote,'s entire plan to win the war in the South rests on men exactly like these. Loyalists, rising up, marching to the crown. 600 of them are on this hill. In about 2 hours, most will be dead, captured, or running for the swamp. And the king's grand strategy for the South will take a wound it never fully heals. But how did 340 farmers end up here, deep in British-held Georgia, about to blow a hole in the king's plan? To understand, we go back 6 weeks, late 1778. Britain has a problem. 3 years of war in the north have gone nowhere. Boston, lost. Saratoga, a whole British army surrendered. And now, France has joined the Americans. The war Britain thought it would win fast is dragging into something it might not win at all. So London changes the plan. Look south. The theory is simple, and it sounds brilliant. The southern colonies, Georgia, the Carolinas, are full of loyalists. People still faithful to the king, just waiting for the royal army to show up and protect them. Land an army, plant the flag, and thousands of loyal Americans will flock to it. The South will conquer itself. It starts well. December 29th, 1778. Savannah Falls, Georgia's biggest city, taken. The British push inland. By the first week of February 1779, they take Augusta. Georgia is, for all practical purposes, a British colony again. Then comes the important part. Recruiting parties fan out into the backcountry, the frontier forests and farms of the Carolinas, with one job: raise the Loyalists. Bring them in. The whole strategy rests on a single bet, that the backcountry will rise for the king. One man is about to test that bet with 600 lives. His name is James Boyd. Because out here, the war isn't Americans against Britain. It, quote,'s Americans against Americans. In the backcountry, they don't say British and rebel. They say Tory and Whig, Loyalist and Patriot. And they're not strangers, they're neighbors. Men who farmed the same valleys, prayed in the same churches, married into the same families. Now they hunt each other. It, quote,'s a war of raids and reprisals. Barns burned, livestock stolen, men dragged from their homes, a grudge and a rifle. Few of the men killing each other out here have ever set foot in Britain. Colonel James Boyd knows this ground because it's his ground. Before the war, he lived in the South Carolina backcountry. He knows the Patriot leaders coming for him. He may have called some of them neighbors. Remember that. Before this is over, one of those neighbors is going to hold him while he dies. James Boyd is an Irishman who settled at Rayburn Creek, South Carolina. A trader. A man of the backcountry. When the war comes, he picks the king. In 1778, he travels all the way to British-occupied New York and comes back with a commission and a mission: raise Loyalists in the Carolina backcountry and march them to the British Army in Georgia. And he's good at it. He gathers somewhere between 600 and 800 men. Neighbors, kin, farmers who've cast their lot with the crown. It's not a mob. It's the largest Loyalist force yet raised in the backcountry. Exactly the army Britain's whole strategy is counting on. Boyd points them south, toward Augusta. But the march is nothing like the strategy promised. The backcountry isn't friendly. Patriot partisans dog him the whole way, sniping, ambushing, bleeding him. Before he even reaches Kettle Creek, Boyd loses around 100 men to Patriot attacks. Fights at river crossings. Skirmishes in the woods. The Loyalists were supposed to march to the king through a countryside that welcomed them. Instead, every mile is hostile. And behind him, 3 colonels are closing in: Andrew Pickens, John Dooley, Elijah Clarke. Pickens is a South Carolina militia colonel, lean, devout, quiet and relentless. Dooley and Clarke lead the Georgia militia out of Wilkes County. Between them, about 340 men. If that name Elijah Clarke sounds familiar, hold on to it. He'll surface again and again in this war, on hill after hill. Kettle Creek is one of his first. The three colonels have been chasing another Loyalist recruiter across the backcountry. Then word reaches them of something bigger. Boyd's column, 600 strong, driving for Augusta. That quote S the one that matters. Bring that army in and the Southern strategy works. Stop it and the whole bet collapses. They break off and go after Boyd. The problem is numbers. Boyd has 600, maybe more. The Patriots have 340. Outnumbered nearly 2-to-1, chasing a bigger force through enemy-held country, trying to catch it before it reaches the safety of the British Army. They have to catch Boyd before Augusta. They have to catch him tired. February 14th, 1779. Boyd crosses the Savannah River into Georgia. He's close now. So close he lets his guard down. He stops at Kettle Creek, a stream in Wilkes County, running high and flooded, curling around a low hill. His men are worn out from the long march and the running fights. He decides to rest and feed them. It's a good spot. High ground. A bend in a flooded creek protecting the flanks. Cattle already penned on the hill, ready to be slaughtered for a hot meal. And just a few miles off, another Loyalist camp. Practically friendly territory. Boyd feels safe. You can almost understand why. His men unsaddle the horses. They light fires. They start butchering the cattle. Some of them wander off through the canebrake. The war feels far away. Guards are posted. But nobody's really watching. Why would they be? They're a few miles from friends and a day from an army. They don't know that Pickens crossed the river behind them. They don't know he's already in the trees at the bottom of the hill. They don't know that the neighbors they left South Carolina to escape have followed them all the way into Georgia. The hunt is over. The Loyalists just don't know they're the prey. Pickens has a plan, and it's a good one. Hit the camp from 3 sides at once. He quote, all take the center himself and come straight up the hill. Dooley swings out to the right. Clarke swings out to the left. 3 columns, closing like a fist, trapping the Loyalists against the flooded creek at their backs. If it works, Boyd's men will be surrounded before they can grab their muskets. 600 sleeping soldiers, hit from 3 directions in their own camp. It could end in minutes. The columns move out through the woods and the swamp, quiet, closing the distance. Everything depends on surprise, on hitting all 3 sides together before the enemy can react. And in the next 10 minutes, both halves of that plan fall apart. 2 things go wrong, almost at once. First, Pickens's advance guard. The scouts out front of the center column spot the Loyalist sentries, and somebody fires. Too early. Against orders. The shots crack across the camp. Every Loyalist on that hill hears them. The surprise, the whole point of the attack, is gone in a single trigger pull. Second, the swamp. Dooley's and Clarke's flanking columns hit the flooded, boggy ground along the creek and bog down in it. Men and horses floundering in the mud and water. The 2 wings that were supposed to close the trap can't get into position, so the 3-sided ambush becomes a 1-sided fight. Pickens, in the center, alone, against a camp that's now wide awake. It's the worst possible start. Surprise blown, flanks stuck. And Boyd, veteran that he is, doesn't freeze. He moves. Boyd reads the situation fast and makes a sharp call. He sends his main force back to the top of the hill, the strong ground behind the creek bend, to form a defensive line. Then he grabs about 100 men and rushes forward, down toward Pickens's oncoming center to buy time. They throw themselves behind a rough breastwork, a farm fence and some fallen timber, directly in the path of the Patriot advance. And they open fire. And here's the thing, nobody tells you about Kettle Creek. For the first stretch of this battle, the Loyalists are winning. Boyd, quote, S-100 men, dug in behind that timber, pour fire into Pickens's exposed column. Patriots go down. The rebel advance stalls. Boyd has the position, the numbers, and now the initiative. If his line holds and his main force counterattacks off the hill, the trap could snap the other way. And it's the Patriots who get destroyed. For an hour, Boyd's breastwork holds. The whole battle is balanced on that fence line. And then it's decided by 3 men who got lost. Somewhere in the swamp, a small party of Clarke's Georgians, separated from their column, floundering in the flooded ground, lose their way completely. They don't know where the rest of the army is. They don't know where they are. They just push through the cane, trying to find the fight. And they find it. They come out of the swamp at exactly the wrong place for Boyd, right on the flank of his forward position, behind the breastwork. Where the Loyalists aren't looking. They raise their rifles, and they fire. James Boyd goes down, hit several times, mortally wounded. The man holding the whole Loyalist line together, the man Britain's entire southern gamble is riding on that morning, is shot by a handful of rebels who blundered into the perfect spot by pure accident, lost in a swamp. That quote how thin the line is between victory and ruin. Boyd did everything right, and it didn't matter because 3 men got lost. The Loyalists see their colonel fall. The forward detachment behind the breastwork loses its nerve and falls back toward the main line on the hill. Command passes to a major named Spurgeon, but the momentum is gone. You can feel a battle turn, and this one turns right here. Pickens presses. His men fight their way onto higher ground on the right and start pouring flanking fire into the Loyalist positions. The center pushes forward. The pressure that Boyd's breastwork had been holding back for an hour comes flooding in all at once. Up on the hill, the main Loyalist force, the larger body, the ones who never really got into the fight, begins to waver. Their leader is down. Their forward line is broken. Rebels are on the high ground and closing. The 600 start to come apart. The Loyalists break for the creek. They abandon the horses. They abandon the supplies, the baggage, the butchered cattle, everything, and run for the water, trying to get the flooded creek between themselves and the rebels. And Elijah Clarke, finally clear of the swamp, sees it coming. He spots high ground on the far side of the creek, the exact spot the fleeing Loyalists are making for to reform. If they reach it, they can rally and fight on. So Clarke drives his men across the water to seize it first, to cut off the escape. His horse is shot out from under him as he does it. He keeps going. It works. The high ground is taken. The Loyalists who make it across find rebels already waiting. There's a last, sharp exchange of fire across the creek. And then the Loyalist force doesn't retreat so much as dissolve, killed, captured, or scattered into the swamp and the woods in every direction. The whole thing takes maybe an hour or 2. The count, somewhere between 40 and 70 Loyalists dead. Around 75 captured. Boyd's army. The largest Loyalist force raised in the backcountry, the great hope of the Southern strategy. All but wiped off the map. The Patriot cost, about 7 to 9 killed. Roughly 15 to 20 wounded. 340 farmers just destroyed an army twice their size. And the fighting isn't even the part of this day people remember most. After the guns stop, Andrew Pickens walks the field, and he finds James Boyd. Boyd is still alive, still conscious, dying, but not yet dead. And the 2 men know each other. Before this war, Boyd lived in Pickens's part of South Carolina. Neighbors, near enough. Now one of them is the victor, and the other is bleeding out in a Georgia canebrake, and the only thing that put them on opposite sides was which flag they chose. As the story comes down to us, Pickens doesn't gloat. He orders that his dying enemy be given every care possible. He leaves water. He leaves 2 men behind to tend him and, when it's over, to bury him. Boyd asks him one question first. Who won the day? Then Boyd hands over a few things he carried on his body. A letter, personal items, by some accounts a brooch and a lock of his own hair, and asks Pickens to see them delivered to his wife and to tell her how he died. Pickens gives his word, and later he keeps it. He carries the news and the keepsakes to Boyd's widow. That is the truest picture of what this war was in the backcountry. Not redcoats and rebels, 2 neighbors on a hill, one holding the other as he dies, then riding to comfort the widow of the man his cause just killed. Boyd dies that evening. For the men who followed him, the reckoning is harder. Around 270 of Boyd's survivors eventually straggle through to the British and are formed into a Loyalist regiment. They live to fight on. The roughly 75 taken prisoner are not so lucky. Pickens marches them to Augusta, then to 96 in South Carolina. And there, the state authorities decide to make an example. They put the captured Loyalists on trial. not as prisoners of war. As traitors, around 50 are convicted of treason. Several men taken at Kettle Creek among them. A hanged sit with that. Americans trying other Americans for treason and sending them to the gallows over which flag they served. That is how deep the hatred ran in the southern backcountry. This wasn't a clean war of nations. It was neighbors killing neighbors and then hanging the survivors. And the cycle doesn't spare the victors. John Dooley, one of the 3 Patriot colonels who won this day, will himself be murdered in his own home by Loyalists before the war is out. There are no clean hands in the backcountry, only sides. So what did 340 farmers actually accomplish on that hill? More than they could possibly have known. Start with the irony. On the very same day as Kettle Creek, February 14th, 1779, the British commander holding Augusta decides to abandon the city and pull back toward the coast. He's worried about gathering Patriot armies, and he doesn't know whether Boyd will ever arrive with his Loyalist force. Kettle Creek answered that question. Boyd was never coming. And 3 weeks after the British took Augusta, they gave it up. Now the bigger wound. Britain's entire southern strategy rested on one bet, that the backcountry would rise for the king. Kettle Creek was the first real test of that bet. The largest Loyalist army the backcountry had raised, marching to the crown. It was ambushed, shattered, and its survivors hanged as traitors. Every wavering Loyalist in Georgia and the Carolinas got the message. Rally to the king, and this is what happens. You march hundreds of miles, you get destroyed by your own neighbors, and the lucky ones end up on the gallows at 96. Loyalist recruiting in the backcountry never recovered its confidence. The bet at the heart of Britain's plan for the South had been called, and it had failed. And the men who called it kept going. Andrew Pickens rises to general and, 2 years later, helps win the masterpiece at Cowpens. Elijah Clarke fights on through the whole bloody backcountry war, including a ridge above a river called Musgrove Mill. The lesson learned at Kettle Creek: that determined militia could destroy the king's Loyalists in their own country, is carried forward to King's Mountain, to Cowpens, and down the long road that ends at Yorktown. Britain came south, believing the backcountry would rise for its king. At Kettle Creek, the backcountry rose and marched the other way.